Hello, my name is Andrew Kitzmiller, and this is my presentation for IT 304 on self-driving cars and trucks. So first, let's take a look at the potential benefits of self-driving cars. One of the biggest benefits is that there will be substantial gains in travel times, as these self-driving cars will be programmed to drive as efficiently as possible. So you'll no longer have to deal with getting stuck behind somebody that's driving 10 miles under the speed limit, or somebody slowing down as they go up a hill, or people slowing down as they drive by a police officer, or other things like that. Some of the other benefits of self-driving cars can be seen in this chart that I have over here containing Google's aspiration for their own self-driving car. Human error is the #1 cause of car accidents in the world, but with self-driving cars, it eliminates that factor completely. Thus, the number of accidents in the US could potentially be reduced by over 4.9 million. Another one of the benefits is that there will be a reduction in commute time. As mentioned before, these cars will be driving as efficiently as humanly possible, therefore saving time on people's commutes to work. The faster people get to their jobs, the more time they can hopefully spend being productive at their jobs. So another one of the benefits, and probably one of the biggest, is that driving will no longer be a chore for people. Instead, people will be able to use this time to maybe relax, catch up on sleep potentially, or just do things like read a book or mess around on the internet. Another thing they could do during this is just be productive and answer work emails or catch up on things and other things like that. So now let's take a look at some of the potential risks of self-driving cars. Obviously, one of the biggest risks and dangers is that these cars could potentially be susceptible to being hacked by somebody. This would lead to basically an unlimited number of risks and dangers for both the driver and everyone else on the road. So in order for multiple self-driving cars to be on the road together and drive efficiently, they will need to be able to communicate with one another. Anytime data is transferred, especially wirelessly, it is susceptible to being distorted, intercepted, and potentially altered. And when it comes to cars using this data transfer to communicate with one another when they're moving 60 plus miles an hour down the highway, any glitch or break in communication could mean life or death for one of the passengers in one of these vehicles. Another one of the potential risks of these self-driving cars is that they're significantly dependent on the use of sensors, as you can see over here in the image on the right. These sensors are used for everything from regulating the car's position in relation to other cars on the road, the car's balance, and some of them even include a laser sensor that scans 360 degrees around the vehicle in order to detect objects. One of the potential risks is that if these sensors were to be damaged or covered up by an object that was hit while driving, it could lead to a car accident, as the driver would have to take over control of the vehicle, but he or she may be distracted by something else, as that's one of the benefits of self-driving cars. So now let's take a look at the ecological impact of self-driving cars. As mentioned earlier, one of the benefits of self-driving cars is that they will be driving more efficiently, and as a result of this, they will be more fuel efficient. This fuel efficiency will be due to the fact that these cars will be able to drive significantly closer to one another than most people manually driving cars would be comfortable with. This graph over here on the right displays fuel consumption of vehicles based on the distance between cars in an attempt to see how wind drag impacts fuel consumption. So because these self-driving cars will be able to drive significantly closer to one another and bunched up, thus reducing the wind drag affecting the cars, it could reduce the amount of fuel consumed by these vehicles from anywhere between 20 to 30%. As mentioned earlier, one of the benefits of self-driving cars is that they are significantly safer and could reduce the amount of accidents that occur a year. This would potentially increase the appeal of walking or biking, thus reducing the amount of fuel consumed a year. Another potential benefit of the safety and reduced number of accidents is that the cars could start being built a lot lighter, as the number of collisions would no longer be as much of a concern, which would also mean less fuel consumed. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the negative ecological impacts of self-driving cars. One of the first negative impacts is that it could result in more people driving. People like the disabled and the elderly and potentially kids under the age of 16 that don't have the ability to operate vehicles or couldn't legally because of age restrictions could now potentially drive these cars as they wouldn't technically be driving. Another potential negative impact of self-driving cars is that it would increase the appeal of long distance traveling. People would be more likely to drive long distances if they didn't have to focus on driving and they could instead be sleeping or reading a book or something like that. And then it could also reduce the appeal of public transportation, as you could easily zone out in a driverless car as you could on a train or a bus. This would also increase the amount of fuel consumed a year. So now let's take a look at the social impact of self-driving vehicles. One of the biggest hurdles these self-driving car companies are going to face is getting people to trust their product. In a poll of 1,033 vehicle owners, it was found that 65% of these drivers think that self-driving cars are a dangerous idea. However, 61% that they would likely consider a model with autonomous safety features like park assist and collision avoidance on their next purchase. I also think that it would take only one car accident in a self-driving car to cause a lot of uproar and mistrust within the industry, so these companies will have to be extremely careful when making these cars available to the public. One of the interesting social impacts I found when doing research on this topic was that there were a lot of articles stating that self-driving cars will result in cities expanding. This is due to the fact that traveling in cities would be less costly and less time consuming, so increasing the appeal of traveling to and inside of cities. There will also be a lower demand of adjacent parking garages and parking lots next to office buildings, as these self-driving cars would be able to navigate to off-site parking after dropping off the passengers. These parking lots and parking garages could then be replaced with other buildings, resulting in city expansion. One of the other social impacts that I thought of was that the police officers would be more focused on crime instead of the traffic violations that occur. One of the downsides of this is that the traffic violations do bring in a lot of money for these police departments, so there would definitely be both benefits and negative aspects regarding this. There would also be a decrease in government spending, as the cars using the current roads and highways would be using them as efficiently as possible, reducing the need to expand these roads. Thus, money would just need to be spent on maintaining them as needed. Another one of the negative social impacts is that there's going to be a significant slash in revenue. If self-driving cars were to become widespread, it would result in a global slash of revenue in the billions and trillions of dollars range in the following industries: car makers and part suppliers, auto dealers, car insurers, auto financiers, body shops would all receive significantly less revenue, as the vehicles will be driving significantly safer, resulting in less accidents and cars that need to be replaced or repaired. Emergency rooms and health insurers, medical practices, and personal injury lawyers would be suffering, as there would be less people coming in with medical emergencies and be in need of personal injury lawyers. Other companies like road construction companies and parking lot operators would also receive a slash of revenue, as the roads would no longer need to be expanded and parking lots would potentially be broken down and replaced with buildings. Oil companies would also receive a slash to their revenue, as these cars would be driving significantly more efficiently, consuming significantly less fuel than they currently do. I included this slide because I thought it would be pretty interesting. As a result of these self-driving cars, there's going to be a dramatic shift in the way cars are advertised and the car features that are included in them. the focus is going to shift away from the safety and performance and more towards the style, design, and electronic features within the car. Instead of focusing on driving, the drivers and passengers will now be able to relax and work on other things. So there's going to be an increased demand in comfort and technology, etc. Um, Electronic companies and app makers will seek to outfit these cars with all sorts of distracting entertainment that would earn billions of the now free time in these self-driving vehicles, and this would also result in more cars with 4G and internet capabilities. So I included this side just because I thought it was pretty interesting, and I had stumbled upon a couple different interesting ideas about the potential future of driving and self-driving cars. There could potentially be freeways or lanes off limit to manually driving cars. This would allow self-driving vehicles to travel safely at significantly higher speeds than manually driving vehicles like today. Cars would essentially be chauffeurs. You would basically get dropped off and then your car would automatically park itself, and then later when you're ready to leave you could just hit a button on your phone or the car keys and it would just come and pick you up. You could eventually, if you're in like a city like New York, get picked up by a taxi or a bus that doesn't have a driver. um, Cars could fuel themselves up or charge themselves if they're electronic while you're at work or while they're parked. That way you don't have to worry about dealing with the sometimes hassle of filling up your car with gas. And it could eventually get to the point where self-driving cars become so much safer than manually driving cars that manually driving cars become illegal. So these are the references that I used for this assignment. I appreciate you taking the time to watch my presentation and hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.